did you just say that applications as agents? Like,
Yeah, it's kind of like an agent kind of application effectively. So I'm thinking specifically of the BlackRock guys in their talk. They basically said to build like it was powered by LangChain solutions that any engineering team could build on top of and integrate with across all of their different other applications within their organization. So it's kind of like an internal agentic solution that could be engaged with by other engineering teams, and they had to build an interface in and out of it so that it could be maintained and on top of their, basically within their infrastructure stack.
Tom, I mentioned to you, I like to demo these LangGraph agents. We've talked about A2A, all these different design patterns. And so I'll just jump to something that I'm excited about. I have this in Claude Desktop. So Claude Desktop, like Claude is an agent itself, right? It has it has no prior knowledge of my tool swarm agents, but with model context protocol, it does, right? So I just enabled that tool call and
Tool swarm transfer to SQL agent. Okay.
we'll see if it gets it the first try. Yeah, so it called my tool swarm as a tool. So it's calling the LangGraph agent as an MCP tool. And then if we, over here on the right, you can see these traces. So yeah, I guess, I don't know. The point is it can get really complex and multi-layered, and I don't think you necessarily have to. And to me, it's
Is this
more about like specialized, like very specialized, simple agents and very effective tools. What was
yeah.
that?
Well, yeah, agents agents do the thinking, tools get the data, right? And this that you're showing me here, is this the update that you were talking about where you could effectively create agents as, like you could build your agents in the LangChain stack and then effectively create like, or publish them as MCP, like an MCP server
Yeah,
behind them?
exactly. So this tool swarm, this is an agent that I have published in LangGraph Cloud or LangGraph Platform. So you can access this a number of different ways, right? We talked about like the open agent platform. Of course, you can build your own web interface over it. And now you can have your agents as MCP tools, which I think is a total game changer. I've been using this type of stuff ever since we got back from the conference, and I realized that was possible. I've actually been using this a lot.
So talk through some of the applications of this. What's possible now that wasn't possible before?
Think about this, like say that you are a customer of mine and I've designed an agent for you. And now with MCP, all the authorization, authentication stuff,
Mm,
you would add this to your Claude Desktop or any MCP client, and you would be able to use that that agent that I designed for you. Also, um, I don't know what the proper term is. I guess composability. So think about the fact that Claude or any MCP client is generally an agent. Um, it can act as your orchestrator. So if you have specialized agents that do different things, you can create workflows. Like I have some other ones, like researcher. I could say, call the researcher agent, do your research, then call the tools agent, save that research to a file, then have another agent that's like a data analyst, right? So in the LangGraph and any agent architecture, you'd pretty much have to program that or code it to do those things, right? They would all have to be part of the same graphs and be able to communicate with each other, where these could all be completely isolated agents that you can still provide that composability. That's what I see. Plus,
right.
plus the
So
MCP tools that you have in your in your desktop as well. So you can combine or basically give your agents access to tools that they don't have.
So it would, like, thinking practically, I could publish a marketplace of available agents, which effectively opens up functionality and skill sets, right, across agents when they hit a wall or they realize they can't do something or they need something, and then you could expose those. And those can have specific architectures that are designed for those tasks. For example, a data analyst architecture can be optimized for that task without having to be within the actual kind of monolithic. It's kind of like monorepo, right? Like the monolith versus the microservice.
Yeah, exactly.
But
That's what they talked about at Vercel, right? And the
yeah,
guy said, I was always a big believer in monorepos, right? Well, help me out because I
well,
remember him talking about that. And I
yeah,
think that's like exactly what I'm saying here.
that's great. The difference is, so that's the analogy, which was like, it's kind of like microservices. Where the analogy breaks is they need to work with each other, right? And so what the cognition guys were talking about is these multi-agent architectures, sort of like if you're exposing it, if you were doing that, they lose context or context degrades if they're not within the flow of if they're not within the same quote unquote graph, then context degrades and therefore quality, like the quality performance components really degrade. So it's like I can give you a galaxy or an ecosystem of potential agents and skill sets or skills agents that have certain performance improvement quality based on their individual architecture. But the whole idea of what they were saying is like that sort of doesn't really work as that well because of the context problem and these compounding errors that develop as that context degrades. And so I don't necessarily know how, I guess that's what they're saying. That's the risk, what they're seeing. Now,
Yeah.
they might have a bias, I guess, based on what they do, because they do, like, it's coding, like that's their thing, right? And the Anthropic one is not that. It's the deep research or it's the research one. So it's a very
Yeah,
different problem set.
exactly. Everyone's going to have different perspectives. I don't think there's any silver bullet. There never will be. But when you were talking about the context degradation, that reminds me of one of the downsides in my experimentation with this type of using MCP or using agents as MCP tools is then all of the output comes back to your MCP client. So you can only take that so far. And if you're using like Claude, it hits that that maxes out that window pretty quickly if you're doing things like research. I have another example, MCP tool, but it's an agent. And so on mine, it does a deep research using Ollama on your desktop. So the Ollama agent is doing all the research, collecting all that context, and then it only sends back the output, the final output to Claude.
Yeah.
And that saves tons and tons of tokens, right? So I have not seen a lot about agents that work in the background like that. I don't
Yeah.
even
So
know.
that would definitely be beneficial, right? So a handoff where you just want an answer, but the answer is complicated. Like, for example, that agent has a virtual environment. They can spin up Python and then they can do some data analysis and they can come back to the requesting agent via the MCP to just give the answer or a concise summary or something. The other, for my own like interest in, say, multimodal agent kind of agent executions over, say, creative and technical work, although this isn't really the case with LangChain, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it isn't, where you could have theoretically an exposed MCP agent, which is very good at stringing together, say, Comfy UI or, some of those like chain together diffusion model execution runs that then comes back with a piece of like an image or an SVG asset or, a 3JS execution of a visualization or something like that. Like LangChain is focused just on LLM executions, right? Whereas you don't have like a execution run that you can put into a LangGraph execution that's like a LangGraph, agent that has, all right, now you have a sub agent, which is a diffusion model, for example, that generates an image. So you're saying I could have a sub agent that could generate me a song via, or like, convert, or like a VO3 endpoint, like an agent that can execute on VO3 endpoint and then return that as a file, for example. I guess if it was a third-party API endpoint, it would work.
Yeah, it's going to return generally a like base 64 version. But yeah, this agent it's very similar to the newer deep research that they put out. You can configure different settings, like if you want to use Tavily or a different search provider, and then you can configure your model. In the output, I didn't actually get any output from like all the different steps of the Ollama deep researcher agent that runs locally. So in this example, I just get the final output if this actually ran. But I also have it configured with LangSmith. So although I don't see that output on the front end, I can see, you should see the traces. So I have it set up so the Ollama agent still runs the traces, and you can see all that background work.
Yeah, in LangSmith.
So
I've never done that.
you get
I've never set that
the
up
idea.
locally.
Yep.
That's super cool, man.
Yeah, it starts, I don't know. Again, at some point for me, it's like, I'm not necessarily concerned with what the name of the pattern is. You just have to know the different things to take into consideration, like context windows, error handling, stuff like that.